Buen día, soy Schalk. Vamos a hablar sobre creación. Bueno, voy a tratar de presentar en español. Espero que tú entiendas mi español, pero tal vez es un poquito difícil y yo puedo hablar en japonés. ¿Está bien? Está bien, ok. Oh, no. O tal vez, no sé, francés o so. Bueno, so my name is Schalk. I'm a Google Developer Advocate. Yo trabajo en las cosas de tecnologías de nube. It sounds funny in Spanish, doesn't it? Fluffy stuff. Oh, my sidekick, the comic sidekick here is, you know him by now, I think, right? Wesley Chun. So he'll be here for a Q&A, questions and answers at the end. So vamos a empezar en español. Voy a tratar de hablar español sin acento, ¿está bien? Bueno, sin acento de Argentina, ¿no? O pollo, playa. Bueno, ok. Tal vez yo pueda hablar un poco de Argentina español. Bueno, voy a hablar sobre las cosas de la nube, de tecnologías nuevas. También hay tecnologías que tenemos en Google que están desde 3 años más o menos, de Google App Engine. Aquí, ¿cuántas personas usas Google App Engine? 1, 2, 3. Ok, está bien. Bueno, y en este momento, en esta presentación, voy a revisar un poco, review un poco de Google App Engine para las personas que no has usado App Engine, y después vamos a hablar sobre las tecnologías nuevas de la nube. Esas son Google Storage, Prediction y BigQuery. Ok, vamos a empezar. Y tenemos mucho tiempo para questions y preguntas y respuestas. Okay. Esas son las tecnologías que son más o menos de las tecnologías de la nube de Google. ¿Tú sabes algo de App Engine? Creo que. Y también hay otras tecnologías que son muy poderosas. Google Storage. ¿Alguien aquí has probado Google Storage? 1, 2. Ok, muy bien. Y también hay otras tecnologías muy interesantes. Por ejemplo, Google Prediction API. Es un servicio de REST. Y tú puedes predecir, predict, essentially algunas, outcomes. Una mezcla de inglés y español. Y también BigQuery es para hacer queries de datos grandes. Si recuerdas la presentación de James Whitaker, él estaba diciendo terabytes of data. Y eso no es una broma, es muy interesante, es muy poderoso y tú puedes query muchas cosas en bases de datos muy grandes. Bueno, un recap de App Engine. El App Engine tiene hay muchas tecnologías que tú puedes usar para crear aplicaciones de la nube. Y el App Engine es una tecnología que se llama Platform as a Service. Bueno, esta es la categoría, Platform as a Service. Tiene algunos componentes. Tú puedes bajar el SDK y el SDK tiene todo que es necesario para crear aplicaciones. En su computadora directamente. Por ejemplo, tienes una application runtime en Java o Python, y también hay en Go. Eso es nuevo, es experimental. Antes era totalmente en Python, y en 2009 ha empezado el apoyo para Java. Y ¿cuántas personas? Creo que casi... la mayoría aquí usa Java, ¿es correcto? ¿Es verdad? Sí, ok. Python, ¿cuántas personas usan Python? Oh, there you go, Wes. Wow, that's good. That's higher than I've seen. Bueno, y también tiene herramientas para desarrollar tus aplicaciones. Por ejemplo, tiene un Eclipse plugin. Ese es un plugin que Google ha escrito. Y también hay otro para Python, se llama App Engine Launcher. Y tal vez voy a mostrar los dos aquí. Y cuando estás creando o desarrollando pollo, okay, paella. I have to wake up, I'm still sleeping. Where was I? Tú puedes usar el admin console, un dashboard adentro de tu computadora, y también después cuando tienes tu aplicación está listo para subir en la nube, tú puedes subir tu aplicación en tu App Engine en la nube. Oh, sorry, ¿cómo? I said, there we go, thank you. Y en este momento tu aplicación está listo para serve el Internet. Es muy fácil. En eso. Las cosas que son diferentes de esa tecnología es que no tienes que... mi mente está en el time zone de California. Bueno, vamos a ver. Y tal vez japonés es mejor. Tu aplicación cuando estás listo, no tienes que hacer muchas cosas para aumentar, no tienes que... por ejemplo, hay algunas tecnologías que tienes que escoger todo de su arquitectura primera para correr tu aplicación en la nube. Tiene auto-balancing o tiene auto-scaling. Puede crecer cuando tienes el tráfico en tu aplicación, no tienes que... preocupa mucho de tu aplicación. Solamente tienes que observar. Sí, I got my helpers there. Y tú puedes decidir cuánto quieres pagar para tu aplicación. Bueno, vamos a jugar con Google App Engine y después voy a hablar sobre las otras tecnologías. Aplicación, ahora estoy usando Eclipse. Y también tú puedes usar totalmente Command Line Tools, Ant, por ejemplo, o cualquiera. Y también hay otros IDEs, hay otras herramientas, NetBeans y IntelliJ, y también tienen sus propias plugins. El Google Eclipse plugin es una tecnología solamente de Google, y hemos construido una herramienta que está adentro. Let's see, hola, Argentina. Y en este momento no voy a usar Google Web Toolkit, pero yo puedo, si quieres usar la mezcla de las dos tecnologías, tú puedes dejar como así y construir una aplicación que tiene dos tecnologías. ¿Sabes algo de Google Web Toolkit? Bueno, Google Web Toolkit es una tecnología para hacer o crear un usuario de interfaz, pero yo puedo hablar casi dos horas más o menos sobre esta tecnología. Eso no es... voy a hablar sobre las tecnologías del servidor. Y por eso voy a dejar, no voy a poner... en este momento, solamente voy a crear una aplicación solamente usando servlets. Y un Java servlet y una página de HTML. ¿Okay? Y tengo mi aplicación aquí y tú puedes ver. Solamente tiene este Java servlet. Y yo puedo decir algo como así. Buenos Aires. Y también yo puedo poner un debugging breakpoint. Y también voy a poner un poquito más HTML para ver mejor. Ok, listo. Y vamos a correr esta aplicación. Solamente tengo que tocar este bicho aquí. Y también yo puedo correr sin debug option. Está listo y solamente tengo que ir a este lugar. Está cached. Este es otro de ayer. Ahora tengo mi Hola App Engine. Este es el index.html que está aquí en el Word subdirectory. Es un poco de HTML que tiene este link para ir a este servlet. Y ahora el servlet está corriendo y estamos aquí. Y tú puedes debug, step through the code. Y voilà, estamos aquí. Bueno, tengo mi aplicación, está listo. Voy a subir en el cloud. Solamente tengo que ir a appengine.google.com. and get your the. Tengo algunas. Bueno, cuando estás empezando, tú puedes crear una aplicación. Por ejemplo, Schalk. Let's see something new. Cosa nueva. No sé, GDD. Pollo. Ah, it's available. Okay. Schalk. Pollo. Pollo. There we go. ¿Qué? No, okay. Bueno, listo. Schalk-pollo. Okay. Y ahora tengo mi aplicación. Está listo para subir, pero no tiene algo. No tiene base de datos, no tiene cosas. Pero tú puedes ver que es muy interesante este dashboard. Tú puedes ver los logs, los revisions, versions. Y si sabes más, no voy a hablar mucho de esa tecnología, pero hay muchos servicios adentro App Engine. Backend es como servidores en el atrás, y cron jobs, task queues, offline processing, y esos. Y también el data store. El data store es una base de datos de Google App Engine. No es SQL, pero es muy scalable. Es un NoSQL solution. Hay algunas tecnologías que están casi listo, que tiene SQL, pero en este momento tiene su base de datos adentro. ¿Y qué más? Bueno, tiene muchas cosas. Y ahora tú puedes ver, tengo una cosa que se llama Application Identifier. Este es el nombre. Bueno, esa es la identificación de mi aplicación. Y solamente tengo que poner este identificación en mi aplicación, aquí. Y tú puedes ver Application ID aquí. Y ahora, cuando yo upload o deploy, ¿cómo se dice deploy? Deploy, okay. I think that's a hint. Just switch to English and be done with it. No. What's that? Okay, bueno, está preparando a deploy mi Schalk pollo. Está subiendo algunas files, archivos, está bien. A veces el Wi-Fi o Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi, yeah. I've heard Wi-Fi in other places too, it's funny. Yeah. Oh, Spain, yeah, that's right, Wi-Fi. Wow, yeah. Bueno, deployment completed successfully. Y vamos a ver, Schalk dash. Yeah. Although I'm not going to Barcelona. Hola, Argentina. Y tengo mi aplicación, Schalk-pollo. Y bueno, está listo. Mi aplicación ahora está en el internet. ¿Y cuánto tiempo? No era bastante. Bueno, tú puedes ver, es más o menos fácil crear una aplicación en Java. O también, si quieres, yo puedo demostrar. ¿Quieres ver en Python? Es muy fácil. Okay, thanks. Bueno, tal vez updated it. I'm going off script, so that'll teach me to go off script. Yeah, that's right. Bueno, ese es el Google App Engine Launcher, y también tiene algunas features like Argentina y create. Está listo, yo puedo correr también en la aplicación como así. Y yo puedo browse Hello World. Bueno, eso es casi lo mismo que puedes hacer. También yo puedo subir y también, mira, deploy. También tiene su dashboard. Ese es el dashboard local. Except for I'm not, because I'm logged in the other one. Bueno, I can show it to you on the other one. Bueno, bueno, tú puedes ver que más o menos es fácil. Tú puedes crear aplicaciones en Eclipse y también en otras herramientas, por ejemplo, en este App Engine Launcher. Y también tú puedes usar command line tools como Ant o cualquiera. Solamente son scripts y esos scripts están haciendo las mismas cosas mismas. ¿Ok? Bueno, vamos a regresar. Bueno, App Engine tienes algunos servicios, el Data Store y también el Memcache. Estos servicios son de las infraestructuras de Google. Google, por ejemplo, tiene Bigtable. Esa es la base de datos grande que tiene todas esas cosas que cuando estás usando Google para buscar algo, tiene esa base de datos atrás, que se llama Bigtable. El Data Store es un API para hablar a Bigtable. También el Memcache es un API en App Engine que puedes usar para hablar con el Memory Caching Service en Google también. Y URL Fetch para hablar o sacar algunos datos en el Internet. Y también para construir aplicaciones de chat, tú puedes usar XMPP o email o cualquiera. La verdad es que hay muchos más servicios que tú puedes usar en App Engine y también tiene sus propios servicios adentro de App Engine y ahora hay más servicios que tú puedes usar un poquito más afuera de App Engine. Y esas tecnologías son más nuevas y son, por ejemplo, Google Storage. Tú puedes guardar tus datos en la nube de Google. Y también hay otras tecnologías, por ejemplo, Prediction, API y BigQuery. Y vamos a hablar sobre esas cosas también. Google Storage. Tú puedes guardar cualquier datos en la nube de Google, any format, any amount, any time. Tú puedes control access, el acceso. Tú puedes definir quién puede accesar tus datos. Y también hay muchas herramientas de third party. Y, por ejemplo, para accesar Google Storage, tú puedes usar algunas herramientas que son lo mismo que tú puedes usar con hablar Amazon S3. Porque el API son idénticos. Y, yes. Oh, further back. Okay. Testing 1, 2, 3. I'll pull it back 1, 2, 3. How's that? A little bit further back. 1, 2, 3. Hola, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, closer?
Oh, closer. Oh, okay. Although when I get closer, we get feedback. So, how about that? A happy medium? Okay. Sorry. It's lots of things going on. Bueno. And I'm going to drink. I know I'm playing with fire. Ok, vamos a... tal vez voy a hablar poquito más inglés, porque es... ¿Cuántos? Well, what happened next? Tal vez. Bueno, los use cases, the sample use cases, there's static content hosting. You can really do anything, images, music, video, cualquiera. You can use it for backup of data, business data, personal data. And of course, sharing data, so similar to services where you can share any type of data in the cloud. And of course, if you're building web applications, mobile applications, if you have assets that you need to just place into the cloud, it's very easy to use this type of a service. For example, yesterday, how many people saw the video game presentation? Yeah. So the sample application that I showed actually has its resources or its assets in Google Storage. And when I initialize the application, it will fetch those contents and place it into the running application. And then, of course, Google Storage serves as the foundational storage for Prediction API, BigQuery, as well as a host of a whole bunch of other technologies that are also available for using in the cloud. So it's a very foundational, multi-purpose storage technology that anyone can use externally, or even the Google technologies use as well. How was that? Did you like the accent? So. The benefits: high performance, it's very scalable. Because Google's infrastructure is so widespread and robust, it's obviously been around for a while, serving multiple people around the world in a very high performant manner. Also, the Google has very tight security and access controlled, all the way down to the hardware level up through the software level. So Google Storage uses the benefit of that. And it's very easy to use as well because it's based off of industry standards. You have RESTful APIs by which to interact with the technologies. Okay. So as I mentioned, Google Storage, to interact with Google Storage, you're dealing in REST, so HTTP GET, PUT, POST, and so forth. All of the resources are accessible via URI. It is compatible with Amazon's S3, so that means that you can very easily take the same tools that you use to talk to Amazon's S3 and talk directly also to Google Storage. And this also makes porting or offloading data very easy. The concepts also are very similar to Google or the S3 storage in the sense that you have buckets, and the buckets are just containers, and then inside the containers you have objects which can be up to 100 gigabytes in size. And of course, you have ways for access control. So you can control whether you just want individuals to access your data, or if you want to open it up to groups, or if you want to have everyone have access to your storage technology. The authentication, it's fairly straightforward. You can sign in using access keys, and then there's also a process by which you can do a web browser login by which they can authenticate and then be granted access to the data in the Google storage. Okay. So I won't go too much since we are running a little short on time. So I think I touched on most of those points. There's read, write, list permissions, and I'll show you in a little bit how that works. So let me jump in and do a demo. So first of all, actually, just to show you, code.google.com/APIs/storage. So this is, and I have the URLs at the end of the presentation, assuming my web connection is good still, hopefully. Here we go. Did you go to the workshop yesterday? Where we had, yes, we had to sometimes hope that the, well, we'll see. Maybe the connection's not so good, which will make it hard to demonstrate some of the technologies. Well, I can jump back into my slides because that's all cached. Well, there we go. So one of the things that I want to show you very quickly is just how to use some of the initial tools. So you can see this in the documentation. There's two tools especially that I would show you. One is called gsutil. This is a command line utility, and then there is also a web-based tool which you can then also run through the web to see your storage objects. So let me just jump over to my command line interface, and I can show you. So for example, gsutil, and then I give the argument ls, and that's very similar to the Unix ls command. And likewise, I can say specific. And I'm just picking one of these randomly. So it's gs:// and then there's essentially data that you can see. I can even do ls-l. Well, that's fine. So, and then plus I can do copy, remove, make directories, and so forth. So what you would expect more or less from the command line utility. Now what I can do also is show you how you can go and create or interact with the Google storage through a browser. So here's my browser. I can even create a new bucket, Schalk-bonjour. And it's not taken. Oh, I should say that this is, the reason I put Schalk in front of it is because the namespace is not just yours. You you can get collisions with others. So I have my Schalk-bonjour. And one thing that I can do is say, take an image, or any kind of content really. Sorry, I forgot to put the data here. So let's see, Google. I think I have an image here somewhere. Where's my image? Or I can just download it. Sorry, I'm taking too much time. Save images. We'll go 3W. Okay, so now I have that. I want to drag and drop that over into my bucket. There we go. So it's now uploading the logo into Schalk-Pojo. And I can go back here, and I can do ls of Schalk-Pojo, and I should see there's my logo. So basically, I showed you a little bit of the command line utility as well as like how to interact with the web interface for Google Storage. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. So what are some of the usages? Well, Google Storage is used foundationally by numerous technologies. We have Panoramio, we have a lot of different internal Google projects on it, as well as technologies such as the other technologies, cloud technologies, such as BigQuery, Prediction API, as well as many others. So it's pretty much one of the most foundational cloud technologies that Google uses across the board. We also have some early adopters. We've been working with these partners for over a year now. Some of them you recognize, VMware, even the United States Navy, and so forth. So they've been quite effective in utilizing and putting videos, any kind of content. They've been quite happy with working with Google Storage so far. The pricing, I won't go through the details since we're running a little short on time, but basically there is a free trial quota that you can use so you can become familiar with the technology. And then there's also the production storage costs, which basically are focused on usage. Okay. And so yeah, Google Storage, the summary is that really any kind of data that you want to store in the cloud, it's very easy to do. You have plenty of APIs and the third-party utilities and libraries that you can make use of. You can use the Google-provided GS util, the Google Storage Manager, so that's the web browser, as well as third-party, like Boto, Cloudberry, Cyberduck, JetSet 3T. That's basically the technology that allows you to use the, really, it doesn't matter, you can use Amazon's S3, or it even also works with Google Storage. Okay. Now let's talk about Google Prediction API. This is a very fun technology. It's based off of machine learning technology that Google has had for a number of years, but it's now being offered as an API that really anyone can use and integrate into your application. So very simply, it's a pattern recognition, or it essentially predicts outcomes based off of learned patterns. So if you provide it a set of data by which it can then understand and observe patterns, it can then detect what could be a next outcome. So this is a very simple example of how it can predict what a particular language is. This might be helpful if you have multiple languages coming into a website and you just need to know how to route the questions or the comments. So in this case, it sees a little bit of text. It then bases its classification off of its internal prediction model that you have trained it to learn from, and then it will provide the output. In this case, it's predicting that that is French. How does it work? Well, you provided the training model, which is simply a comma-separated value table where you have a set of keys, so you could, which are essentially the answers, and then you have examples. So, for example, English matches to that sentence, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, so forth, and then Spanish, and so forth. And then once you've trained your prediction model, you can then go into an operational mode by which you are sending up via REST a set of examples or bits of text, and then it will essentially predict or classify what particular category that this bit of text that you've sent best matches. And it does provide a fairly detailed response. It's not just one guess, but it provides a ranking of what it could be. I'll show you how that works in a second. There's really a large number of applications that you could try it with. One of the most popular tends to be customer sentiment. So for example, if there's a forum or some type of a feedback website that you want to have this capability, you could build your own model and you could also train it. So you can say the customer sentiment for this question is positive, or this is not a happy customer, so we need to treat this person carefully. This is something that this prediction API could be very useful. So that's one example, but there's many others. In scientific applications, if you have lots of data that you're working with, this could be employed to allow you to auto-classify or further organize your data. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. So I did touch on the process a little bit, but this explains it very clearly. So you have some data. It's in a customer comma separated value table. You then upload it into Google Storage using gsutil or whatever library you want. So once you've uploaded it into Google Storage, you then make a RESTful call to train the data. And then once it's done, and it usually just takes within less than a minute, at that point you are now operational. And then you can send a series of predictions or queries to say, predict what this is, and then it will respond back. And that's really all there is to it. It's pretty easy. So I won't go too much into this, but that's an example of what I just described. gsutil cp to copy the data into Google Storage, your own bucket, and then you train it. So you call training, essentially that's the key thing right there, which tells it to say, point to this particular bit of data and learn from it. And then once you're in the mode where you want to make predictions, you call essentially the predict URL, and you send up some text. Now this is all via REST. That's an HTML post. And then this is going to predict that that's a bit of French text in the sense that it says, oh, I think it's French, and then it'll give it a score, but it could be English. It might even be Spanish, but I think it's still French. So. Okay, this is a bit of a code that shows you that you could do it in this example, Python, but it doesn't really matter. You can construct your own RESTful queries to create your predictions. And the demo I'll show now is also just a simple command line that you can also do as well. Pricing, that's interesting. I had to format it when I did it, and then when I pull it into presentation mode, it scrunched it up. So apologies for the formatting there. But again, as similar to the other technologies, there is a free trial period where you can essentially become familiar with the technology, and then after that you can get into more of an operational mode where you can essentially budget out your predictions and so forth. Okay. So let me go ahead and step into some demonstrations to give you a feel for what it's like. So in this case, I have some recipes. So what I did was I actually went and I downloaded some recipes fairly quickly, and I only created about 12 different examples of the recipes, and then I uploaded it into Google Storage, and then I told it to train it. So it's actually pretty easy in the sense that I called, OAuth train, and what the heck, I'll go ahead and train it again. It usually takes, 10, 15 seconds to train it. And then once it's trained, I can then start issuing predictions. And if I want to check on the training, let's go ahead and just check it. So this is like a asynchronous check to see if the training is done. So right now, as you can see, it's still running. I'll check it again. And these are just random cuisines that I've put up. So the training is now done. So what I've done is that I've taken a comma-separated value set of cuisines. So I put like Mexican, French, Italian. I think I added Brazilian. I did that pretty quickly. So and so the data basically is there in this tabular format. And then I called the train. So I wanted it to essentially train the data to say, hey, this is a bit of prediction data. I want you to understand it. And then now I can go back and start issuing predictions. And so I can say, I don't know, let's try pasta, for example. So now I'm sending a bit of text up to the prediction API, and it thinks pasta best matches Italian cuisine, although it does have some other rankings for some of the other cuisines. So that, in a nutshell, is how it works. I should clarify, the small scripts that I'm using is simply just to make it easier from a command line standpoint to make a HTTP post, an authenticated HTTP post, which is using OAuth, which actually has my key, which I've gone through and registered. So not anyone can do this, but I've already registered. So just to save some time, I registered and I have my access key, and I have the script that uses OAuth and sends as an authenticated request to see the, to issue their predictions and so forth. You can learn about how to do this exact command line preliminary stuff at the tutorials when you get started. It's like a hello world prediction or hello prediction. So I would definitely recommend you go through the same process. You can use a simple OAuth curl command. It's a Java application, so it allows you to do authenticated curl command line requests for HTTP posts and so forth. And that's what I'm doing here. Okay, so let's move on. Now the other thing I wanted to show is I showed how to train a model, how to make some basic predictions, but if you want to utilize at a higher level, like an integrated application, this is where you can use, for example, the JavaScript API for prediction. So the JavaScript API, as well as we have other API or libraries, the JavaScript library for the prediction, we have that available, as well as working on some of the other libraries, for example, for Java and so forth. So what this means is that you don't have to write your own RESTful or construct your own RESTful queries. You can just use the simple library to do that. So I do have another application that I have available. This is called the Content Tagger application. And so what this application is also, it's pulling from a list of Google technologies that have been tweeted. It's a very large list, which I could show you very quickly. So this is basically the data that was loaded into this particular storage. So obviously it's more than just 12. It has like a number of different things. And so the different technologies available could be Chrome or App Engine or Android, yeah, exactly. And so this data has been loaded in, and now there's also a front-end content tagger application. So just to give an obvious prediction, I typed in App Engine, and it actually says, yes, it understands that that is App Engine. And also to make this easier to see how it works, I'll put in the developer tool. I'll turn on the developer tools, and then we can watch the actual network as it goes by. So I'll hit predict, and you'll see the post going up. It's actually doing two predictions. One is for sentiment, and also one is for the actual content. So let's take a look at this one. We can see that the data is being transferred up, and that's actually, it's coming back. Let's see the response. So this is the sentiment prediction. It thinks that App Engine is positive right here, which is a good thing. But let me do the other prediction as well. It thinks that the output also is App Engine. And as you can see here, that's also why that's being displayed. So let's see if we can do something else, like, what's that? Oh, the other options? Yeah, so there's weighted confidence for the different responses. So it has a very low confidence that Chrome is App Engine. Obviously 0.96 is very high. So it's very sure that it is App Engine, obviously because I typed in App Engine. It's very low again for Android. So anyway, I can toss in a few other predictions, hit mobile, and see what comes back. Android, that's good. That's what we expect. It's very confident, I would say. We could do, I need a random one. I don't know if anyone has any ideas. I could Wave. Let's see, why not? Chrome. Well, I guess you could use Chrome to interact with Wave back in the good old days. No. You want to see the sentiment? Uh-oh, now we're putting ourselves up. Let's see. Oh, it's positive. Ta-da, it's positive. So anyway, this could be historical data, so I don't know. So we don't need to talk about, yeah. Let's talk about, like, the future. Yes. That's a good one. Okay. Alrighty. So just to finish up that demonstration, the content tagger demonstration, it's actually using the combination of technologies. So it's using an App Engine front-end application. It's hosted in App Engine. It has the data stored in Google Storage, and it's using the prediction API, and it's actually using the JavaScript library to make the call to the prediction API based on the data stored as its prediction model. So it's a nice integrated view of all of the technologies working together. Okay, how are we doing on time, Wes? 5 minutes. Okay, so let me just say a few things about BigQuery. This is a technology. It's not yet available, but I do want to kind of leave you with some high-level points about what it is. And then as we continue to roll out these further cloud technologies, we'll have more demonstrations of how you can use it and actually show demos. So I will touch on kind of like the main things about Google BigQuery. BigQuery is basically, it follows the same process, the same manner, where you can have very large amount of data. Well, basically any kind of data, doesn't really matter, and place it into Google Storage, and then you can then start, you can tell the BigQuery API that this is something that you want to be able to query off of, and then you can, at that point it's operational, you can make any type of SQL queries against it, and then be able to extract data. It's primarily for doing analysis. It's not necessarily like a full like SQL production backend database, but it's a little bit more for business intelligence or just ad hoc analysis off of very large data sets. So James Whitaker said yesterday, terabytes of data, and he's not kidding. It's actually can scale to extremely large data, which you wouldn't be able to do in your traditional SQL databases. Okay. And it also uses the same type of RESTful interface. So as long as you can create, HTTP posts and so forth, you can use your own code or have third-party libraries to send these requests to BigQuery. It can then respond in kind using HTTP. And then it's up to you to integrate that response into whatever front-end application. Okay. So what are the use cases? Well, there's many use cases that you can use. I tend to think that scientific analysis is a very good example where if you have lots of data coming in from sensors or, for example, the geological services where you can have earthquake data, or if you have any types of financial data, just any, where you have lots of, different data. Even HTTP log traffic is also very good because that can be quite substantially large. Okay. Scalable, billions of rows. The response time is extremely fast. You do use SQL. It's not the complete SQL. It's a little bit of a reduced set, but you have enough to be able to do the kind of operations such as analysis that you would want to do it with. And of course, you use REST, JSON RPC, in order to interact with it. There is also the ability to use Google Apps scripts. So if you've attended one of the talks today on Google Apps scripts, you can create your scripts within a Google application and then also access the BigQuery data. The SQL is actually a compact, so select from, where, group by, order by, limit, things like that. There's some math functions, where you can essentially calculate some of the values that are coming out, and then also statistical approximations, top, count, distinct, and so forth. So again, this is a little bit more for analysis as opposed to a production type of a database in an enterprise application. Some examples, again, it's still the same RESTful, you're doing gets to see the data and so forth, and then you get back the JSON reply. And then it's up to you to take the JSON and put it into whatever user interface in your application. Okay. The security it uses some of the older security, client login, auth sub, and it also supports OAuth. So it's fairly flexible with its security model. And it also supports HTTPS. These are some examples. I won't go into too much, but basically there's some initial demonstrations where we have Wikimedia data, actually, where there's lots of data that people are generating, so user-generated content, and you can actually integrate this into your own application or even a Google Apps app and run some queries and get some good data. So here you can see there's plenty of data. I won't show you the results, but also the other thing that you can do is integrate it, as I mentioned, into, say, a Google spreadsheet, and tie that into an actual BigQuery table and have the results then populate your spreadsheet on the fly. Okay. So just to finish up, we're going to take some questions, but just to recap, App Engine, essentially it's a technology that's been out there, but you can now start to use it with some of these other newer web technologies, Google Storage, Prediction, and BigQuery. Here's the URLs, and don't worry, you'll get the slides, but it's pretty easy to find them. If you Google any one of these technologies, that will lead you right here to find more data information. Okay, so thank you very much. Let's take some questions, but if you don't want to stick around, no problem. But I want to thank you and muchas gracias.